No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's right. It was meant to be you this week, wasn't it?
No, just when it works. You do
I
it.
promise. Hello and welcome to The Pouch, the podcast equivalent of an autumn storm that seems to be deliberately avoiding your location that takes a not-so-serious look at the week in Australian news and politics. I'm Greg. Well, that rain joke from last week didn't age well, did it, Savage?
And I'm Jake. Hey, the 40-hour work week, it's just a suggestion, right, Farwarden? On today's episode, we talk marching, raining, job keeping, and so very much more.
And in the spirit of reconciliation and recognition, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're podcasting today, and we recognise their continuing connection to land, water, and community. We pay our respects to elders, past, present, and emerging.
And this week, our thoughts are with all of those affected by the recent rain bombs and the flooding all across northern and I think it's western as well, and even maybe some southern New South Wales. Yeah, it's pretty intense right across. Also, I think Port Macquarie.
Yeah,
standout, big standout there.
Yeah.
And all of those as well who have to endure another 3 years of Mark McGowan after the resounding win in Western Australia last week.
And Jake, while we're as snug as a bug in this proverbial rug, I want to know what you got me to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of the WHO officially declaring the coronavirus outbreak a pandemic.
Well, spoiler alert, I got you sick.
Like fully sick?
Yeah, fully sick, dude. Also,
it's pH sick. Now, Jake, do you have a light that's not
pH
on?
sick. No, I've got a light that's so on.
Okay, that's all right. That's good. Oh, that's better.
It's like searing my flesh.
Yeah. Or is it? Well, we were talking about that, weren't we? We were talking about wrinkles off air. You know, how I have them and you don't.
No, I definitely do have them. I think
Italian skin.
I was more remarking about the fact that over this medium of internet-based broadcasting,
I think
I'm coming across
to
as
the internet.
Yeah, okay, sure. Use the technical terms. I think I'm broadcasting in lower definition. So yes, my wrinkles, they're still there.
Yeah,
they're just not broadcast.
Yeah. Well, we know that the sun also causes a fair chunk of wrinkles there, Jake. So make sure you stay right out of that sun.
Okay.
There's a big push of shade this week in Western Australia. I don't know if you caught that, but yeah, they're thinking of making it part of building sort of code that you have to include shade.
I love that. I just love that idea. It's tremendous.
Shade? You don't love shade,
I love the idea of throwing shade. Yeah.
Well, you did a little bit of that.
Particularly Western Australians.
Threw shade at Mark McGowan before we.
Exactly. No, I really love the idea of building shade into. I think that's something that should be extended throughout Australia's cities.
Throughout the world,
I think it's a tremendous idea. Well, through the world. Yeah. Look, I'm not going to mandate what another country does, but they should definitely be doing this.
Well, New Zealand's already all over it.
Look,
it's just all shade. She's just gone nuts.
Yeah, so true. I mean, New Zealand is among the most experienced shade throwers in the world. Look at us. Look at how well we are doing with our coronavirus. I can't do a New Zealand accent, and I'm just going to end up sounding racist. But I'll just look, they are great at saying how great they are.
They have a ministry of shade.
Shade throwing. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Maybe the term the All Blacks was referring to how great the shade is there. Exactly. And the silver fern on their flag is actually a depiction of how great they are at shading people.
That's what she's done. She's just built this enormous
silver fern
that just goes across the whole of Aotearoa. The land of the long shade.
White
I think
cow.
It stands for, yeah.
I think I said white cow. I meant white cloud. Yeah. Also white cows.
Let's not go down the cow path.
No, that wasn't intentional.
Speaking of not going down the cow path, a couple of quick things. Number one, thank you for your patience while we get this episode out. For those of you who are paying attention, Jake and I have just been have been flat out with other commitments, otherwise known as getting paid to do things. Jake in particular, I know, has had a pretty hectic week. We're not allowed to talk about it. It's a secret.
No, it's not. Well, it's not.
Are we allowed to talk about the fact it's a secret?
Oh, I mean, no.
Just get people curious.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, no.
And no, it's just been an intense thing. So lots of people have intense jobs, and I don't want to say that mine is more intense than anyone else's, but I can certainly tell you that this week it's been a fun and crazy week.
Well, look, you're upright and you're speaking, and that's all I need from you, Jake. So that's all good.
Yep.
And also, just a quick note now at this stage of the game, we don't touch on the any of the allegation sort of stuff that's happening around Canberra at the moment. We can't do it justice, and we don't talk about it. That includes things like Brittany Higgins and those sorts of events that are occurring around there. We like to talk about more positive things, Jake, like the economy.
Yes, the economy.
Less contentious things like the economy.
Yeah, look, this is a really interesting one, Greg, because we find ourselves at a moment in time, Greg, where we have the same participation rate. That is, people who are able to get jobs, getting jobs, as what we had prior to the coronavirus pandemic and subsequent lockdowns.
Well, my understanding is there's more jobs now than
before
the pandemic.
That's right. So the unemployment rate is actually marginally better. The participation rate is approaching record levels, and is essentially appreciatively better than it was last year at the same time.
It's crazy. We want to report on bad news, Jake, and here we are just flourishing.
Yeah, I would say we are at a cliff. We are at a cliff, Greg. We're at a cliff known as March 30, which is, of course, the date when JobKeeper, that program that was set up essentially to keep employees attached to their places of employment during the lockdowns and subsequent shutdowns of various industries. Particularly notably the arts industries, the performance industries, tourism industries, travel industries, and all of those.
Was out of work anyway, Jake. Really?
Well, I mean, like that's what they would put on their
5.8%.
Exactly. You are absolutely correct. But I would also well, they are all entrepreneurs. I think by definition.
We're all entrepreneurs at heart, Jake.
Yeah, that's so true.
Now, I just want to clarify something, because you did say that JobKeeper ends on March 30th, but Job Seeker ended on Thursday.
Yes.
So that we just want to make that distinction, right?
Sorry, that's the Job Seeker Subsidy. So that was the addition to, that was essentially an extra little bonus amount of cash that was going in addition to the normal Job Seeker payment.
Yes.
Or formerly the New Start allowance, that essentially was there during the pandemic to keep people, essentially keep them well, keep them clothed, keep them in their apartments, keep them in their places of residence. Et cetera, during that sort of pandemic period. But yes, these programs are now peeling back. And there is a great question. A lot of economists are asking this $20 billion question, which is, what happens after JobKeeper?
Yeah, sorry, my mistake. The Job Seeker base rate passed Parliament on Thursday afternoon, and it will end on the 31st. That's the qualification I need to make. Apologies about that one.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So look, 1 million people on Job Keeper still. And 2.7 million have graduated from that one. Sorry, the Job Seeker in the March quarter. So 2.7 million people have graduated is the term. Is the term that they're using, graduated from that one.
Congrats, guys. You've graduated.
Yeah. And look, I think it's one thing I think about pretty often, especially around these Job Seeker, Job Keeper sort of deals, is that in Australia, I think we do pretty well at sort of going, look, we're doing really well. We're doing all these little things. But I think when you watch, like, even some, I suppose, like, I'm specifically thinking about ABC because that's like a lot what I watch, but you also got like The Project and Current Affair to a certain extent, all those sorts of things. They have like little stories of people who are still really struggling, and I think it's important to keep those people in mind, because you go, well, that's great that 2.7 million people have graduated, but that's 1 million people who are potentially going to be really struggling, and hearing some of those harrowing stories about about what people are going to be doing after the Job Keeper ends, when employees are no longer enticed to stay attached to their employers. What does that mean? So there's still a lot of stories out there, and our thoughts go out to those people who are still struggling, and we hope that you find a way to make ends meet, because it sure is tough out there. $50 per fortnight, we know is not a great deal of money, and so hopefully it all sort of falls into place for you. 5.8% though is very good, but it's still
it is a
5.8,
short-term thing.
Yeah.
We are looking at looking forward, not in a necessarily positive way, but we are looking now towards the next reporting period, which is the second quarter. So we'll just have to see what that brings. Of course, we'll talk a little bit later of one of the programs that was announced by the federal government around trying to bolster travel and trying to pick up travel.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a little bit, but exactly, yes, absolutely. But Greg, your warm-up story.
Yeah. Okay. So there's another happy story, right? Australia to miss plastic reduction targets without tougher enforcement, waste industry said. So this comes from The Guardian. And the opening line is that Australia is likely to miss all of its own targets to rid the environment of plastic unless there is a major overhaul of its management and enforcement, conservationists and waste industry representatives say. A government review found no state or territory had investigated or penalised a company over their performance on packing waste in the past 4 years. Now, this led me down a little bit of a rabbit hole, Jake, and I discovered that in 2018, Australia established the ambitious 2025 national packaging targets. Did you know about this?
Didn't know about this.
Didn't know we had packaging targets, and neither did the states or territories, apparently. The targets create a new sustainable pathway for the way we manage packaging in Australia. Now, this is directly from the website, so that's why it still sounds like it's full of hope, not full of rubbish, so to speak. The 4 targets were 100% of packaging being reusable, recyclable, or compostable by 2025. 100% by 2025.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, well, that was an ambitious target, apparently.
Except we're just not going to meet it.
Track. Yeah, 70% of plastic packaging being recycled or composted by 2025.
Yeah, okay.
50% of average recycled content included in packaging by 2025. I'm sure some of these don't make sense. The phase out of problematic and unnecessary single-use plastic packaging by 2025. And some states and territories have done a pretty good job of doing it. I think you guys have led the way with that, haven't you?
We were one of the first to get rid of single-use plastics.
Yeah.
Particularly the single-use, the classic supermarket plastic bag.
How are you surviving up there? What is the apocalypse like based on that information?
Look, it's fine. Frankly, it's pretty good. We're still being able to carry our goods from supermarket to car. Well, I mean, the step up from a single-use plastic is a multi-use plastic that you can use multiple times. So it's going remarkably well. Don't get me wrong. At least 100,000 people have died after they were unable to purchase plastics. They were just like, "How am I supposed to get these groceries out to my car? Can't do it. That's, I can't eat," and they just all died.
Okay.
But luckily, somebody did then very shortly after invent the notion of a reusable plastic bag or a reusable, other type of bag. And those 100,000 people that came back to life, like, it was crazy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that
might be zombies, but
doesn't sound too bad. Look. There's a lot of information out there about this one, but yeah, basically, long story short, they're basically saying that if government doesn't step in and start making it mandatory to do a few of these things, it's certainly not going to reach our target. And there is a somber Environment Minister, Susan Lee.
A sombrero?
No, just somber.
Okay.
She's just somber.
So we're sure she's not wearing a really big hat.
Yeah, and if she was it recyclable? That's what I want to know. But she's
that's
looking quite...
Yeah, look, that is the real question.
They're going to make the targets, Jake. But anyway, that's my warm-up story. And that's it done.
Probably should use less sombreros.
Any
might have met the targets.
That, Jake? Any reflection?
Yeah, look, a couple of reflections, but none of them plastic-based. Yeah, look, it's sad, and it's good all at the same time because it's important to set targets.
I love a good target.
Yeah,
Should we
targets
set a
are
target
great.
of getting onto the
No,
next
it is good, and this is the area where we do need to be setting targets. In areas that are going to lead to our continuation of life on the planet. So yeah, look, unfortunate that we're not going to hit those targets, but not necessarily bad that those targets were set in the first place.
All right, well, I think I can do this, Jake. I think I've got the perfect segue, but you just have to bear with me because we're just going to have to jump down to story 2, right? Because we're talking about targets and we're talking about environmental targets, and we know that Australia doesn't have. We don't have a zero net carbon emissions.
We don't have a net zero. No, we do have a prime minister who said he would like to get to net zero, but at or before 2050, 50 rather.
Yeah, just like Donald Trump wants to release his tax returns.
Yeah, he just has no ambition towards setting a target. Yeah,
but Matthias.
So we might get there, and we're going to try to get there. We just have no pathway to get there.
That's right. But Matthias Cormann, former finance minister, he loves it. He loves a good zero net emission net. And
not really.
Yeah,
but I am. Sorry, go on.
No.
I'll let you talk.
No, because I know nothing about what I'm talking about, Jake. So you go right ahead. I know who Matthias Cormann is, and I know that he has been recently selected as the head of Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OCDE, in a move Prime Minister Scott Morrison called a recognition of Australia's global agency, aka he had a private jet.
Yeah. He had a private jet. He was given a private jet. He was, so Matthias Cormann, he's been selected as the new head of the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, otherwise known as the OECD, or in days gone by, Greg, it's been known as the Rich Countries Organisation.
Yeah. Well, it's about time they did something.
Yeah, exactly. We need to just level the playing field there. So yes, Mr. Cormann, Australia's longest-serving finance minister until last year, when he did resign in order to put himself forward, or to have Australia put him forward and nominate him as the potential next leader. Closely edged out Sweden's Cecilia Malmström, to take over as the Secretary General of the Paris-based organisation from the outgoing Angel Guerra, who, interestingly enough, took power shortly after the global financial crisis. So sort of after the 2007 era, and he frankly steered the world incredibly well in terms of economic policy for a significant amount of time. And as you know, we sort of got to the point, I think, as a world, thinking, and Greg, I know you feel the same as this. We were pretty much, as a world, saying, look, Angel Guerra, he's just going to be be there forever now.
Well, I got my T-shirt and everything. I don't know what to do with all of this stuff that I've got now.
Exactly. I've got the pillow.
Yeah.
I've got the Angel Guerra toothpaste, and unfortunately now I'm going to have to throw that toothpaste in the bin because it's got a new Secretary General. Exactly. I don't want to brush my teeth with Angel Guerra anymore because he's not the Secretary General of the OECD. So, but yes, quote, this is a great honour for Matthias, who has worked tirelessly over several months to engage with leaders, senior ministers and officials of the OECD member nations from Europe, Asia and the Americas, said our Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, in a statement following the election. It was the most senior appointment of an Australian candidate to an international body for decades. For decades. Yeah. Especially because he actually started off, Matthias Cormann actually started off as an international body, because of course he was born in Austria, and then he was elected to this international body after coming to Australia and being Australian for quite a long time. So
that's the thing, right? He's got an insane story. He really he really built himself up from the ground, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he came to Australia from Austria with his family. He's had an incredible education. He speaks 5 languages. He also speaks French as well, which is the essentially the second language of the world. So yeah, look, he said he was quite honoured to be selected, and he said that he would focus on promoting stronger, cleaner, fairer economic growth and raising employment and living standards following the coronavirus pandemic. Now, interestingly enough, there's been a great deal of commentary from member states who were pretty pissed at his lack of action and advocacy on climate change while he was in power in Australia. Again, longest-serving finance minister in Australia. Cormann's victory in the ballot on Friday, last Friday even, led to a series of news reports. He had been elected despite his opposition to a carbon tax, or to rather a monetary or a fiscal-based mechanism to reduce carbon pollution in the world. And Greenpeace International.
Politics, Jake. It's just politics.
It is.
Everyone
it's
knows
muckraking.
that doesn't have an impact in the real world.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
He's just playing politics, and that's okay.
Well, was he playing politics? Are these people pointing out his lack of playing politics? Is that playing politics as well? That's the great question, frankly. Yeah. But yeah, he's got amazing personal strengths there. But one of the interesting things is definitely this commentary around tackling climate change. Using as he essentially said, stronger, cleaner, fairer economic growth, while also looking to, reduce carbon pollution. So what does that mean? What does that mean that the OECD is going to be advocating for? We just, unfortunately, we don't really know. We'll just have to wait and see.
I'm sure Biden will tell us.
I'm sure we'll find out too.
Exactly right. Now, look, speaking of reducing our carbon footprint, Jake, the Australian government released a whole bunch of tickets this week. I'm going to rephrase all of that. I'm just letting you know which story we're doing. Speaking of reducing our carbon footprint, the coalition, Jake, have announced that a $1.2 billion travel boost for the tourism. Basically, you'll be able to jump on and grab a few very cheap tickets to places that have allegedly been impacted by the coronavirus, particularly tourism hotspots such as Cairns,
like Geelong.
Like Geelong, right? And Cairns and all these other things. Now,
the well-known tourist destination.
Is Geelong on there?
Geelong is on there.
Oh, God, yes. That's great.
So is Avalon Airport. You ever been to Avalon Airport,
I have.
Greg?
I've been to Avalon Airport once, and I'm more than happy to pay the ticket to not go to Avalon Airport ever again.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah, it's a long drive.
It is.
from Avalon Airport to the city in Melbourne. Okay, now this was This was certainly not designed to take the focus of any other news happening at all. This was very well timed and very well needed. And so tell us the deets, Jake. What are the DEETs?
Well, so I suppose essentially there is an estimated 800,000 government subsidised plane tickets that will be offered around this scheme's duration, and it'll be available, during the Easter and winter holidays this year. Return flights as well to eligible locations will be discounted by half from April 1st to July 31, and Qantas says that it's expecting to discount around 32,000 seats a week under the scheme, which is pretty massive. The major airlines essentially have lauded these half-price return flights to more than a dozen regional tourism destinations, which is it's pretty cool.
Launceston, Avalon, Merimbula, Kangaroo Island. Great, right?
South Australia.
Gold Coast. Sunshine Coast, tropical North Queensland, so Cairns, Lassiter and Alice Springs, Whitsundays and Mackay region, which on this map is not in the correct place on the map.
Might be Mackay in another area.
On the map that I'm looking at, it's got Whitsundays and Mackay region smack bang in the middle of the Northern Territory. It's absolutely hilarious. Anyway, Broome in Darwin as well. Great, Jake. So I can't see anything wrong with this scheme. This is a great scheme. I get half price tickets to go to Avalon.
So it is a
wrong
good scheme, and
surely no one's got a problem with it.
There are a few people who have pointed out some interesting facts about it. Whether they eventuate as problems is a great question. But certainly, opposition leader Anthony Albanese has blasted the federal government's $1.2 billion travel boost by saying it offers nothing for hotel and tourism operators.
That's right.
So it's not a tourism package. It's about essentially propping up the flight, the airline industry.
Well, he does understand how holidays work, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is reasonable to point out that once you actually get to the destination, you're probably not just going to hop back on a plane and fly back. Yay, we're in Cairns. Yay, we're in Port Douglas. Right, time for a drive and a flight back.
Although having been to Cairns several times, you probably could whip around in a day.
Yeah, but why would you want? You want to go out and do the Barrier Reef. You want to go have some fun.
Yeah, well, that's all you
want
do.
to go eat some fruit.
Cairns,
go to Daintree Rainforest.
This is what happens when you go
see
to
a
Cairns.
cassowary.
Yeah, as soon as you don't even have to get off the plane in Cairns to start complaining about how hot it is. As soon as you walk out, like you can get out of the plane. You don't even have to be on the tarmac, is what I mean. Like you can get off the plane, get into the walkway that takes you into another walkway, right? And that walkway from the plane to the walkway into the airport is hot as anything. Like it's already muggy.
Yeah.
And there's about 50,000 people who have got no shirt on. They're like you, Jake. They're wearing their short-sleeved Hawaiian shirts and they're undone and they're just like, yep, we knew this was going to be hot. And you're just like, this is incredible. You get off the plane and then you go and see the Great Barrier Reef and then you go, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. No, you forgot the Daintree. You forgot the butterfly place.
Well, that's not Cairns.
You're right. It's places around Cairns. But
these places are absolutely beautiful, and you can spend a very, very long time in them. I'm just being facetious, but yeah,
I know.
One of my
totally
favorite
agree
memories
with
is
you.
camping in the Daintree. I loved it. Yeah.
You camped in the Daintree. Wow, that must have been hot.
Yeah, and it's hot. Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing, right? That's why you go
it's hot.
Because it's hot.
Everything's hot,
and there's crocodiles everywhere.
Yeah.
Like we lost a frisbee. We threw a frisbee and it went into the ocean. We were just like, well, that frisbee's gone.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going in there to get that frisbee.
Yeah, it's like when it lands on you, like when that same frisbee lands on your neighbour's roof. Well, we don't have a frisbee anymore.
We lost the frisbee, kids.
Guys,
okay, anyway,
you've lost the frisbee. So one of the other interesting things about this is that some people have obviously pointed out the scheme looks to favour towns and cities in marginal electorates.
What?
Which is marginal electorates, of course, being
where scheme, Jake.
Look, I'm not going to say that it is pork barreling, but I'm certainly going to suggest that a lot of commentators have been exactly pointing to the fact that it looks a lot like pork barreling. Of course, it's not official pork barreling because we're not in the lead up to an official election.
And other towns can be added, is what he said.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but they haven't been. And of course, there's the interesting thing is there's nothing huge in here for people, patriotic to visit, places within their own states. For example, and this is something that the Queensland Treasurer Cameron Pitt pointed out.
Wasn't he cranky? He was a cranky man.
Well, his point was completely correct, which is that if I want to fly to Cairns and then fly back to Brisbane from Brisbane, I am unable to access all of the discounts there.
You can do it. You just can't do it cheaply.
I can do it. I just can't access the scheme and do it. So the point behind this is to have a scheme that's going to encourage people to travel. And if you're not encouraged to travel because there's no discounts, then the scheme doesn't work.
So it'll still get people there anyway.
Yeah, just people from other places.
Yeah.
So I, as a card-carrying Queenslander, can't.
You guys shut the borders to the rest of the nation. You said stuff yous, and now look, and now you're going, all right. Well, you don't want to be part of the federation. That's fine. Oh, you want to be part of the federation when it's convenient for you. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you want to be out. Yeah, exactly.
Hang on. Queensland have done like the best out of everyone in terms of getting everyone back on track for employment.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they have, but that has been because of our strict lockdowns. So
Yeah. So you don't want to be part of the federation. These are
triple-edged swords.
Responsibilities. You've abdicated your responsibilities, and now you're having a big whinge because you're not going to be able to get, $80 tickets to Cairns?
Look, I reserve the right to be able to complain about something that somebody has done that doesn't specifically advantage me. That is my privilege.
All right. Anyway, it'll be good. It'll be good. 800,000 subsidized tickets, half price. And I'm sure that were people not going to fly anyway? Like, aren't planes always full?
So at the moment, they're absolutely not always full.
Okay, fair enough. Stupid thing.
And in fact, the regularity of flying has decreased significantly since.
Yeah.
I've been privy to a bunch of intrastate, rural and remote type flying in recent weeks and months, and that stuff is flying a lot less regularly than it has been in days gone by.
All right, well, I take it all back. I'm sorry, everyone.
No, all points are valid,
that's
and also
fine.
no points are valid.
Yeah, put it on the whiteboard of bad ideas. Now, Jake, we're going to spin the wheel. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, hang on. Hang on. You've got the march. You've got the marches in here.
Yeah, I got the marches in there.
That should be federal, shouldn't it?
It's federal, but I didn't have enough space for 3 federal stories.
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Go on.
Before we spin the thing of things.
Federal politics. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Let's stay in federal politics.
Okay.
Greg, yeah.
Is that toothpaste?
I love it. It's like a shine from my teeth. Yes. So this week was a huge week for women. There was the March for Justice that was held at 42 locations around Australia. It was a rally against sexual assault, discrimination, and harassment of women. An incredibly important and powerful week. There were massive protests held again at these 42 locations, but one of the more publicised and more notable ones was held outside of Parliament House in Canberra.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a massive amount of people there. One person who was noted to be absent, or in fact, 2 people who were noted to be absent from those protests was the Minister for Women and the Prime Minister of Australia.
Yep.
And the absence of those 2 people said a lot, really, in the minds of many commentators about the way that federal politics, federal politicians, the major parties, and a few other segments think about the role of women in society and think about their ability to improve the lives and livelihoods of women in Australia. So it was a very notable absence. Of course, it is an incredibly poignant time, a very important time, particularly as the sexual assault survivor Grace Tame was named Australian of the Year. While we won't get into the allegations, because we are a not so seriously podcast and it is a serious topic. The allegations, of course, the allegations of Brittany Higgins and the allegations of historical sexual assault that have been levelled against the Federal Attorney General, who I note is due to be back in his role towards the end of this month. And will have to recuse part of his roles because he has decided that he is going to sue the ABC for essentially allegedly outing him as the perpetrator of the allegations around that sexual assault. The protests mostly attracted women, mainly in black, some wearing face masks that said enough. They carried signs, quote, "From ditches come the witches," which was a play on the famous "ditch the witch" slur, referring to Julia Gillard at a 2011 rally against the carbon tax, which notably the Minister for Women at the time and the opposition leader at the time, one Tony Abbott, attended and spoke prominently at. Some of the other signs, quote, "We will not stay silent so you can stay comfortable," and simply "enough is enough."
Yeah. The big 2 focuses from my understanding is that they wanted women to be safe in Parliament and they want the inquiry into the rape allegations against the Attorney General. So, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, so this is an important time as well, Greg, because we would often have a situation where if one side of politics, i.e. the Labor Party, and the other side of politics, i.e. the Liberal Party or the Liberal National Party in general, if one of those sides of politics had allegations of an untoward nature leveled against them, and there was even the inkling of the other side of politics having similar allegations against them, then what would happen is that those issues would cancel each other out and nobody would go against them. Essentially, it's a mutually assured destruction type of thing where, if I push the button against you, you're going to press the button against me. Therefore, neither of us are going to press the button. It seems that we are at the right time for enough pressure on both sides of politics from, as the Prime Minister would refer to them, the quiet Australians and everybody else are standing up to ensure that this issue is given the prominence that it both needs and deserves, to do exactly what this March for Justice intended to do, which is to rally against sexual assault, rally against discrimination, and rally against harassment of women, both in politics and in general society. It's an important time.
That's right. You'd have to have your head buried in the sand to not have heard any of the stories that have come out this week, and it's just story after story after story. And if it doesn't move you, then there's something really wrong. So the protests seem very, very timely. Our Prime Minister, Jake.
Before you do say that, I because I know the segue, I know exactly where you're going, and I definitely want to go there. Okay. But I was going to say, I did want to. I did just want to say that the Prime Minister did offer a private audience with the organisers of the March for Justice, who did decline, which, it's obviously their right to do that. It's, I suppose, the Prime Minister's prerogative to say that we won't leave the Parliament House to have a conversation, on the grounds. We won't march over to you, even though you've marched to us. That is both of their prerogatives. But nonetheless, the Prime Minister did decide. Here's a segue, Greg. The Prime Minister did decide to raise the premise of the March for Justice in parliamentary question time, and I think we have a clip of that.
We do.
Today, here and in many cities across our country, women and men are gathering together in rallies, both large and small, to call for change and to act against violence directed towards women. It is good and right, Mr. Speaker, that so many are able to gather here in this way, whether in our capital or elsewhere, and to do so peacefully, to express their concerns and their very genuine and real frustrations. This is a vibrant liberal democracy, Mr. Speaker. Not far from here, such marches, even now, are being met with bullets, but not here in this country, Mr. Speaker. Not here in this country. This is a triumph of democracy when we see these things take place.
So there you go. That was profound, wasn't it?
Well,
he really has a way with words, doesn't he?
Profoundly tone deaf is the way that it's being referred to, because as much as it is entirely correct, and if you give a generous presentation, and you give a sort of a good faith interpretation of what the Prime Minister was trying to say, one could suggest that the Prime Minister was trying to say, look, we have a right to protest, and that is an important right, and moreover, it is a right afforded to us because women have indeed fought to be able to protest and not essentially have bullets flying towards them. The everything else interpretation of it is that it was profoundly tone deaf to suggest that women should be happy because they're not being shot at while protesting outside Parliament House.
It was easy to make that conclusion. And, on a spectrum, right, you go, right, well, on one end, you've got a complete failure from Scott Morrison to do anything. And on the other side,
former marketing expert.
That is absolutely, that he's absolutely nailed it. I would say down towards the end of he really messed this up, right? So although you can sort of sit back and go, look, I understand his point, he just has a knack for just messing these things up, and it was just such a it was like introducing a whole new argument into an already complicated argument, and he could have just said what he needed to say and stayed on message without introducing that weird comment. It was just bizarre. But anyway, and so that was unnecessary, I think, and not at all relevant. That's the point. It wasn't relevant.
It wasn't relevant, and it just look, the fact that it was a scripted remark. It wasn't an off the cuff, remark. This was something scripted. It was something intended to be a strategic, lifting women up type of, that type of speech. It was one that they were hoping to embrace, the role of these protests in improving the lives of women, and instead it was frankly tone deaf.
Yeah.
I go back to the.
That's all right. Rachel May has just chimed in. That sounds a bit rude, doesn't it? Rachel May has left a comment. She said, "What was his point, though?" And I think you've just illustrated that a little bit. He's tried to make that point that these protests are good and that we're lucky we live in Australia, but just missed the mark.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's important to point out the Prime Minister of Australia is a former marketing expert. Somebody who cares a lot about perception. When he was the head of a bunch of marketing organisations.
Yeah.
So
we've all gotten jobs we're not qualified for.
Okay, fair enough. But the fact that the perception of this wasn't something that wasn't in the forefront of his mind, the fact that he scripted this and apparently didn't, when a parliamentarian scripts a question, right, or scripts a speech, scripts an answer to a question, it goes through so many levels of scrutiny, and I just question how many levels of scrutiny did it actually go through?
Yeah, zero.
Was there not the guys had empathy consultants go in? The Prime Minister has had empathy consultants go through his current cabinet government, and yet that seemed profoundly lacking in empathy.
All right. I think we've made a point there, and I think it's very good. I think we, look. Hopefully it's a turning point. That's all I'll say about that one. I hope that this is a turning point for the conversation. I hope it's a turning point for people to be able to come out and be confident in saying that what was happening to them was wrong, and for there to be some action based on that. It's certainly, I mean, there's all this talk about these inquiries into culture change in Parliament and all that sort of stuff. It really goes further than that. I mean, it's not, anyway. Okay, we've sort of promised that we wouldn't go down that track, but that's a poignant point to be making this week and to be discussing. Jake, would you like to spin the wheel?
I'd love to.
Ready?
Here we go.
Where did we land?
It's Greg. It's actually in between Tasmania and Western Australia. Are you able to press it again? Because I'm not okay. I don't like it's. They're two states that are well apart. Can we just spin it one more time? Because I'm just a little bit.
Sure.
I don't have a story that combines the two of them. There we go. Okay, we're good, and it actually landed this time on Western Australia.
Oh wait, hang on. I've got something. Hang on.
Can you do that first one with the sparkly teeth as well?
Jeez, Jake. Have you tried Matthias Gorman toothpaste? I just can't remember the other person's name, which is why I went with Matthias Gorman, but that's fine. Couldn't scroll up quick enough on the script. Or the scrapped.
Or the scrapped.
Yeah,
I prefer the
right.
scrapped.
That's what we do after the script, is we scrapped it. All right, now this is Western Australia, Jake. I didn't think anything exciting was happening in Western Australia this week. Tell us what the go is.
Well, you were wrong, Greg. That's what happened. The Labor Party has swept to a metaphorical landslide victory. Now keeping the It was so funny, Greg, listening to the news reports about the trouncing of the Liberal Party and the National Party, and even One Nation Party and also the Palmer United Party. They were referring to bloodbaths, but moreover literal bloodbaths where there was no blood. So it's very difficult to understand the literality of that.
My favorite thing was when, because I started watching the ABC coverage, as you do, and they were trying so hard to make it sound as though there was going to be remotely something exciting happening tonight that was going to be out of the thing. I think Anthony Green actually called it about 35 minutes to 40 minutes after the counting stopped in Western Australia, which, by the way, stuff you, Western Australia, and your ridiculous time zones, because here I am in a normal time zone, 6 o'clock, going, okay, surely the polls are closing soon in Western Australia. No, have to stay up until 9 p.m. just so that it can turn 6 o'clock in Western Australia, and that's when they started counting. So I'm glad, Western Australia, that you didn't have that you had this landslide, because otherwise, heaven knows how long I would have had to stay up waiting for this result to come in, and your ridiculous time zones. I can't believe it. These people who go over in mines. Texting my friend Bo, and he said it's ridiculous. He gets jet lag all the time. So catch up, Western Australia. Do something about your time zone, please.
Yeah.
Get on
and
to that.
Think
Mark
Western
McGowan,
Australia,
he's probably not going to do it. He probably wasn't even on his policies.
Mark McGowan, you need to think more. Western Australia in general, you need to think more about the thoughts and feelings of the people on the east coast of Australia who had to stay up late.
That's right. It's like they
don't even care about
us. They
us.
don't care. It's like they've just totally forgotten about us here on the East Coast, and they're shutting borders and not caring about the time zones and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Anyway. All right, so this is about a state election. Jake, in Western Australia. Tell us the deets. Give me the...
Well, Mark McGowan's been re-elected. The DD-beaties, I like it. Mark McGowan has been re-elected for a second term as the Premier of Western Australia. The WA Premier from the Labor government has already been swept into power in a win for the ages back in 2017. But 4 years later, he has incredibly topped even that result. So Labor has obliterated, you might say, the WA Liberals, reducing them to a predicted 2 seats. I think they were solidified as 2 seats.
Yeah,
I also enjoyed
something happened, and they've only been confirmed with 2 seats. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of really fun metaphors as well about the types of the types of cars or buses or indeed motorised transport that the Liberal Party would now be able to travel on as a party in order to travel up and down the state of Western Australia. For example, people are saying they no longer need a car; they can just travel together on a moped, or perhaps a motorbike with a sidecar. That is now the efficiency of which the Liberal Party of Western Australia can transport in. But yes, it is a victory that is unparalleled in its crushing nature and the largest in the state's history. Western Australians have never put this much faith in one party anywhere near to this extent before. The election outcome has seen the Western Australian Liberals essentially considered entirely safe during the last election turn to this now very Labor-based red colour. Now, interestingly enough, the former Liberal leader, Liza Harvey's seat of Scarborough, the Shadow Treasurer's Sean Lestrange seat of Churchlands, and the retiring MP John McGrath's seat of South Perth, they are all gone. Their leader, Zach Kirkup, is gone.
He was great. This is my favourite thing about this whole thing is Zach Kirkup, right? Because we constantly talk about how we want our politicians to be honest.
Yeah, this guy was so honest.
He was so honest, right? So he conceded defeat a good 2 weeks out from the election. Now, at first I was like, well, that's a silly move, right? Because people don't actually want you to be honest, right? But that's not true. I realize that that's not true. So even though he still lost in a complete landslide, that's because he was honest. And so it's still a good outcome. So it's not a good outcome.
For honesty.
Yeah, if you're, it's
Except
not a good
honesty lost.
Yes, but that's okay because at least he was honest about the fact that he was going to lose. He wasn't going to win, right? And he had.
Greg, can I just point out? This sounds like a conversation that you have with your 4-year-old, where yes, you need to tell the truth, even when you tell the truth, if you get in trouble.
Yeah, but they're only in trouble because they're members of the Liberal Party.
Who we're going to lose anyway.
Exactly. So for the general public, we were able, or the Western Australian people were able to make a decision based on truth.
Yeah.
And so even though it was a landslide, you might say, well, that's evidence that politicians shouldn't be honest. No, because otherwise they would have been getting voted in on a lie, which is not good. So my thought process has been deep and philosophical, Jake, and that's the conclusion that I've come to. So even though it's bad on paper for Liberals, it's only bad on paper for Liberals. It's not bad for the general public because he was honest. That is true. And I love that. And I think it's a huge shame that he's decided to get out of politics because he could have really used that honesty, I think, to his advantage. I'm not saying...
Yeah.
I think that's the point. The point is that just because you're honest doesn't mean I'm going to vote for you. But it does mean that because you're honest, I can make a more informed decision about who I'm going to vote for, and that vote will actually have a bigger impact in reality, not necessarily... then I'm not disappointed because you lied to me, and then my cycle of distrust continues. Instead,
I do.
Well, you were actually honest about how you feel and what you were doing, and I've made a decision based on that. Just because you're honest doesn't mean I'm going to vot for you. But
it's such a great point.
It's a good point, isn't it? And that's the end of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
It is such a great point, and it is one of those points that we do always the thoughts and opinions of politicians is generally speaking, or was at least prior to the coronavirus pandemic, at all-time record lows, because instead of getting truth, we get subterfuge, and instead of getting answers, we get nonsense. Which is like nonsense answers.
No, you don't have to explain it. It's perfect. Yeah.
But look, in this case, the strategy for the Libs was truly weird. Of course, emphasis on true. But late last year, when it became apparent that the former leader, Liza Harvey, was likely to lose her seat, the Libs decided to go with Zach Kirkup, who was a first-term member and was not particularly strong or well-known. But then when it became entirely apparent that the trouncing was on the cards for both the upper and lower house, Zach Kirkup warned the Western Australian Party warned Western Australians in general off, claiming by claiming essentially that Labor would have too much power if they took the upper and lower house. And invariably that was a very weak strategy. It was a very weak argument, particularly because McGowan is a centrist. Who it seems appeals to, Labor voters as much as he does to, the baked on Liberal voters and national voters as well. So interesting strategy.
That's right, and I found that very fascinating this week too, to hear a lot of people talking about the fact that Mark McGowan actually caters to both sides of politics really quite well, and that's a half decent long term strategy to be considering. But yeah. All right. Well, look, I think that's fascinating, Jake. I think that's it's been such a huge week with everything that's been going on. So, have you got anything more to add to the Western Australian thing before I segue?
Oh, just that apparently the hard border that Western Australia did put up is apparently also visible from space as well now.
Yeah,
and that was just based on the commentary from those news reporters referring to the literal border that the literal fierce and hard border that Western Australia had erected against the rest of Australia during the coronavirus lockdown, as that being the secret to McGowan's success. Apparently, yes, you can indeed see that from space.
Well, we don't. And speaking of space, I think they're just going to block it off and call it Area 51 now.
Yep.
The Western Australian section.
Agree.
What was I going to say? I was going to say we don't really have any. We haven't run the experiment where an incumbent post or during coronavirus has been booted out.
No, but
everyone's been locked back in.
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
Well, I think that continues the trend of elections favouring incumbency. We saw it. We've seen it pretty well in every state and territory election since the coronavirus pandemic in Australia. We saw that in New Zealand. We, to a very large extent, saw it in the United States, where even where the president in that case had objectively ruined an opportunity to curb coronavirus transmission or to address coronavirus during the end of his term. He had an enormous vote for his incumbency.
Yeah, you're right.
In fact, more votes than had ever been given to an incumbent president. It just so happened that more people voted for the other guy, who saw it as an opportunity to change or at least have action towards
that's a really
coronavirus.
interesting point, because we've run the experiment where people have really messed up their responses to coronavirus.
Yeah.
And there've still been heaps and heaps of votes. But yeah, you're right. But at the same time, maybe that was enough to mobilize enough people to get him out as well. Anyway, that's a discussion we can save for the Politics Over Coffee boys,
Yep. Or others.
Surely we should be getting them on soon.
We should.
Surely
we should indeed.
Fanging? Is it fanging?
Yeah, I hate that term. I don't really understand. I assume it refers to a vampire's proclivity to use their fangs to get something out of something when they're thirsty or hungry, and so thus they're fanging for it.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get back to everyone about that one.
That's on our sister podcast, Etymology by Gregg.
I've got to talk to you about our sister podcast, actually. Oh, I do. I've got to talk to you about that. But off air, Jake, it's a secret.
I like a secret.
Jake, look, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I know you've been very, very busy. Once our listeners have finished figuring out what fanging means, what would you like them to do?
Love them to go to patreon.com/The Pouch, the podcast, to help us by providing us with some form of donation of monetary value towards the continuation of this podcast. That was a very, very comprehensively weird way to say, please help us to keep the lights on by giving us a little bit of money. And you can do so by going to, as I said, patreon.com/The Pouch, the podcast. Does help to keep the lights on here. But yes, if you're not ready for that level of intimacy, Greg, you can certainly go to your podcast.
Certainly not this.
No, you can certainly go to your podcast application of choice, and give us a favourable review, either in stars or otherwise. And not only does that help us to be seen by people looking for podcasts on that same podcast application, but it also makes us feel warm and fuzzy, just like Greg's
long
beard.
story short, Patreon and review.
Yeah.
Okay.
You said it way better than I did, Greg.
And if you want to share the love, you can tell your friends, families, and foes to head to thepouchofpodcast.com, where they can choose their favorite podcast player of choice and subscribe that way. Jake.
Greg.
Shout out to my wife who's getting her hair done for our upcoming
nuptials
wedding event.
So excited for you, Greg.
She's currently getting her hair done. How's the hair going, Rachel? Who occasionally contributes to the podcast. And we pretend we don't know each other. Anyway, it's about a 5-minute delay between what I say and her response. In real life and on the podcast. So
I'll get back to you soon, Greg.
Yeah. Yep. She'll let us know. Look, I hope it's going well for you over there. And thank you so much, Jake. I know you've got a huge week. I know you're very, very busy, and you keep wearing that cape and doing the thing that you do. All right. Not all heroes wear.
That was
capes.
me dabbing.
They wear. Is that you? That's not dabbing, Jake. That's weird saluting.
I'm not a millennial. I'm not a
what?
I'm whatever generation I am.
A millennial for this podcast, Jake.
I need a millennial know-it-all. Well, you got to know it all.
Well, that's fair enough. All right, we're about to hit the hour mark. It goes quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, it went well. Yeah.
I listen to half an hour podcasts. Like the weekly with Charlie Pickering is like half an hour, and he just crams in so much.
Yeah, you feel like it's too much.
Ours is like an hour, and we talk about 3 things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 6 things.
Yeah, we have the little warm ups and stuff at the beginning, don't we?
Yeah,
it's not bad.
No,
it's not bad.
I think we're right in the sweet spot. I mean, we're not a 6-hour podcast.
That's right, Jake. We're not. It's not. It's not an Audible book every week.
No,
is it?
And you can listen to it in spates. You can listen to it in little segments as well.
You'd listen to it at double speed, wouldn't you? So it's only
I do.
an hour long.
Yeah. I like my chipmunk voice. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we should do an episode on helium. I watched a few videos like that on YouTube last night. It was pretty funny.
Except
the joy that is Friday night watching helium. People take helium on YouTube.
Yeah. Do you know how dangerous that is, Greg?
Well, I wasn't doing it, Jake.
There are particulates that they put in helium balloons because invariably all plastics
Aren't
are
they just
semi-permeable.
normal balloons?
No, they're not. They're
They look like normal balloons.
They're balloons with a special powder on the inside to prevent the helium molecules from going through the semi-permeable
Honestly,
membrane.
This was just someone with a $4 Coles packet.
Yeah, he's dead now.
And I mean, I don't know about that. He seemed to have a lot of views on his YouTube channel.
Yeah. Oh,
sneezing
it's
videos
the
and a
stuff
bit of
we do
helium.
for views, right?
All right. I'm going. See ya.
All right.
Uru.